In September of 2003, big brothers across Japan ran to the internet in despair. They bemoaned their depression, they claimed mental instability, and some even stated that they had begun to have suicidal thoughts. So what happened? And why were big brothers, of all people, affected? In reality, these were no normal big brothers. Rather, they were the big brothers of 12 fictional sisters contained in a media franchise originally published in Dengekiji's magazine. Karen absolutely adores her big brother, to the point where sometimes she can act a bit spoiled because of it. Sakuya loves fashion and has a tendency to be a bit of a flirt. She loves to tease her big brother. Hinako seemingly has boundless energy, which means that she's always ready to play with her big brother. Despite being clumsy, Kaho works hard at cheerleading. Also, she can cheer for her big brother. Marie is quite reserved, an effect of being bedridden due to her illness. She cherishes her time with her older brother. Mamoru is a tomboy who loves playing sports, especially with her older brother. Rinrin is a little scientist. She funds her new inventions kudos to her beloved brother. Shirayuki loves cooking unique dishes. She's always excited for her big brother to taste them. Shikage is a mysterious girl who confuses even her older brother. Yotsuba grew up in England. She's obsessed with taking pictures of her big brother. Although Haruka hails from Germany, she really adores traditional Japanese culture, especially sharing it with her big brother. Coming from France, Arya is shy, soft-spoken, and a bit of a crybaby. But nothing upsets her more than being separated from her dear brother. Sister Princess began in the year 1999 as an interactive magazine game. Readers would choose a sister of their choice out of the initial cast of 9 and engage in various activities, such as exchanging emails or cooking. The concept was so brother and sister lived apart due to family circumstances, and that the two could only meet on a designated Big Brother's Day. Sister Princess would garner significant popularity. The following year, 3 new sisters were added to the roster. In 2001, Sister Princess would get both a video game adaptation and an anime. In both, the concept was changed from a one-to-one relationship with a specific sister to the lives of all 12 sisters and their singular older brother. While this change was initially controversial, many came around to it in the end, although fans will generally vary over which of the 2 formats that they personally prefer. Across the span of 4.5 years, the Sister Princess universe would expand over 6 games, 2 different anime series, 4 series of light novels, 2 radio programs, countless CDs, published books, and character goods. Today, it lives on via a VTubing project, because of course it does. In August of 2003, in Dengekiji's magazine, it was announced that the final installment would include in the next issue. Likewise, in September, a special epilogue was published, including words from the 2 authors. It was this very occurrence that led to the outpour of despair from Japanese netizens. So now you know what Sister Princess is. We must once again ask, why Sister Princess? If you're here, you most likely reside on the English-speaking side of the web. So if you happen to be familiar with Sister Princess already, chances are it's because of that original anime series that was licensed and released by ADV Films in the States. I was in the 6th grade when I first watched it. The show is shockingly G-rated. After the characters and setting are established, the show mainly transitions into an episodic format. The content of these episodes consists of stories like the sisters all put on a play, the sporty sister teaches her brother to swim, the littlest sister searches for a teddy bear that she saw in her dream. The overall plot content of these episodes is really akin to something you'd see in a show for children. I can recall only one major exception to the childish vibe of the show, that being a certain innuendo scene in Haruka's episode, which is the best episode, despite it, that was so absurdly out of place that has remained clearly in my memory for over a decade. Granted, the anime is the most squeaky clean addition to the Sister Princess franchise, but everything else follows these general guidelines as well. If I had to describe the franchise in a nutshell, I would say that Sister Princess focuses on the enjoyment of the mundane. All of this culminates into the very question of why. Why something so inane, so mundane, can make such an impact on people to the point of agony and despair when it is eventually taken away. The following blog post is one of my favorite things that I've ever had the pleasure of finding on the internet. I happened upon it when I was in the process of searching for data regarding which of the sisters are most popular in Japan, as I was curious. Even though this site contains no such information, I was interested to hear a Japanese fan's perspective on Sister Princess. I urge you to read it in its entirety if you're interested, as I'd personally feel bad just quoting the entire thing here, despite how much I want to. Something so simple, yet so poignant, providing answers to questions I perhaps never asked, but was probably held somewhere in my subconscious. The answer being the absence of malice. Quote, "While it is a given that the bond between brothers and sisters is one of strong love, there are absolutely no negative feelings such as malice, jealousy, or contempt between other people, for examples between the sisters themselves. They call each other by their first names, with the suffix chan, and there's no difference in this regard based on age. The sickly younger sister feels sad that she cannot be with her older brother on a regular basis, and wonders if the other healthy sisters are always seeing their brother, but she quickly denies such negative thoughts. What makes Sister Princess boring and mundane is also what makes it so beautiful. The Sister Princess on the pages of your magazine or on the pixels of your screen is a little piece of utopia." Quote, "A person who is constantly exposed to such kindness will feel uneasy at first. This is because it is something that does not exist in our everyday lives. However, the moment we begin to get used to it, the various psychological defense systems that we have taken for granted are removed. This is because we have empirically confirmed that the surrounding environment is safe, and there's no longer any need to activate those defense systems. To put it even further, appetite can be satisfied by eating. The need to sleep can be satisfied by getting a good night's sleep. Even sexual desire can be satisfied by engaging in the act. However, with moe, there's no act or object to satisfy it. This positive state of mind exists solely for that purpose." End quote. There are many different types of media. Stories for children seek to teach, providing simple lessons through simple scenarios, be they by everyday people or superheroes or animals or whatever. Renowned stories for adults are typically praised for similar but more advanced methods of conveying the author's larger message or perspective on life through the use of literary devices such as symbolism. Some stories seek to derive visceral reactions from mostly willing audience members such as disgust or fright. There are stories that simply seek to entertain, thrillers, revenge dramas, etc. And then there's this type of thing, a staple within 2000s otaku culture. It seeks to provide certain feelings of love, affection, and fulfillment that others typically achieve via real-life relationships, sometimes filial, sometimes romantic, sometimes friendships, to those who probably struggle to have them. Shuffle is a 2004 eroge produced by Naval. The game is notable for being a formative entry in the moege/charage genre, focusing on the daily lives and interactions between the male protagonist Rin and the girls who surround him. Lysianthus, the princess of the gods. Nerine, the princess of the demons. Kaide, the princess, quote-unquote, of the humans. Rin's loving and stereotypically domestic childhood friend. There's senpai Asa and Primula, who is a bit of a wild card. Shuffle is also known for having an exceptionally dere cast. While every girl has her struggles, one is an initially taciturn, one likes to tease, etc., they are all very love-struck. The corresponding princesses of the god and demon realms are included, as both oh so conveniently were quote-unquote saved by Rin as children, events they never once forgot. Eroge logic. Shuffle also has a very utopia-like setting, with gods, demons, and humans coexisting in daily life, devoid of the racial tensions that one would realistically expect in that kind of scenario. So while each girl's route is very much higher stakes than anything you'd see in Sister Princess, both appeal generally to the same type of otaku. The game proved popular, and so naturally in 2005, it received an anime adaptation from Studio Asread. Smack dab in the age of stereotypical eroge anime adaptations, Shuffle would occasionally break the mold. The vibe of the show is more bawdy and dramatic than that of the game. Character traits that aren't so moe are exaggerated, for example, Lysianthus' other side. There's a point in which one of the girls, Nerine, completes her character arc and is then shown making friends with some unnamed characters outside of the main cast. They talk about doing stuff together and make a comment about a male clerk at a shop they visited being cute, a guy who obviously isn't our protagonist / self-insert. Naturally, hamming things up for TV isn't all that extraordinary, so things don't truly get wild until Kaide's arc. In the anime, Rin becomes involved with one of the side heroines, senpai Asa Shigure. Asa was Kaide's mentor. She taught her how to cook and provided emotional support and friendship to both her and Rin when they were struggling. While Kaide is portrayed as the most devoted to Rin, beginning from the very first opening scene in the anime. Kaede starts her day early to make breakfast for Rin. She wakes him up every single morning. She dotes on his every need, even at the expense of her own health. On the internet, I saw many viewers deriding her as the most unrealistic girl. When Rin begins dating Asa, things change. When Kaede and Rin were young, they suffered a tragic loss. Both of Rin's parents die, as well as Kaede's beloved mother, in a car crash. The pair are then taken in by Kaede's father, the final remaining parent between the two. While Rin tries to stay strong, Kaede simply cannot handle the grief, and falls into a coma. As her condition worsens, Rin decides to take matters into his own two hands. He tells Kaede that the entire reason why their parents were on their way back from the trip early was because he had begged them to return. The following day, Kaede's father is overjoyed to see his daughter acting a lot more like normal. Kaede found a reason to keep going, and that reason is torturing Rin, who offered himself up as an emotional scapegoat. As the two live together, Kaede's emotional torment begins behind her father's back. However, it all changes once Kaede discovers an old postcard in Rin's room, dating from the day her mother died. On the back, it is revealed that the true reason they returned was because Kaede had fallen ill and was begging for her mother. Distraught, Kaede runs into the street and is once again saved by Rin. Who she promises to devote her entire life to as forgiveness for her actions. Although Kaede swore to take care of Rin that day, as payment she naturally falls for him in the process. Once he begins spending more and more time with Asa, her emotional reserves begin to crack once more. Slowly but surely, Asa is taking Kaede's place in Rin's life. No, even more than that. She's taking more. This eventually culminates into the famous and shocking scene, well known in reference amongst otaku in the 2000s. In the game, Kaede's past is referred to in conversation with another character, ironically the very one she attacks in the anime, Asa, but never shown. It wasn't until she received a spin-off game, really, in 2006, after the anime adaptation, that it was depicted in Bishoujo game format. So, in other words, in the anime adaptation, the format was changed as Malice was, this time, introduced. Her conflict, to put it lightly, with Asa never occurs within the canon of the games. What I find so interesting about this is that Shuffle isn't trying to be a deconstruction at all. They don't show you this to shame you for what you're watching. Quite the opposite, in fact. It's a completely self-indulgent, tried-and-true harem. Even then, the anime shows us the true stakes of having a harem of girls all vying for the same guy. 3 of them with their hearts set, Prima, who is, well, a wild card route they obviously didn't choose to take, and then finally Asa, who initially stood on the sidelines but secured the win in the end. The utopia is broken with a sudden, unexpected outcome, a peek behind the curtain of the perfect woman. Now, I'm certainly biased. Furthermore, the state on which it hinged was precarious from the start, sustainable only in a state of limbo, in which no girl gets the upper hand that represents her own individual happiness. While Kaede's actions are certainly morally wrong, myself and many others truly felt for her. For the first time, I felt bad for the girls who found themselves in the situation of having to play nice with their romantic rivals every single day, sharing bentos and wishing each other good luck. For the girl who wanted to do anything to make amends for her past trauma, giving her all every day, only to see her very salvation taken from her by her own friend and mentor. Alas, the spell is broken, and Malice rains down upon the previously peaceful utopia. As you can imagine, the Shuffle anime was a bit controversial for fans of the game. Naturally, plenty dislike, hate even, the changes made. I'm biased because the anime was my introduction. I think what I like most about Shuffle is that it did what it did without being some smug attempt at deconstructing the genre. It depicted the utopia presented by the game, but also showed the dark underbelly of what happens when one girl actually wins. Usually in eroge, once you get onto a single girl's route, the others kinda just disappear into the background. I willingly indulge in the zany and fun premise of this ordinary guy and his harem of extraordinary girls. I get attached to a specific girl and feel pain as she does, but in the end, I can look back and say that I enjoyed it from the start. Moe, cute girls doing cute things, whatever you choose to call it, is like having dessert instead of dinner. What it lacks in nutrients, it provides in endorphins. Content like this is often looked down upon, deemed trite. Although plenty of keyboard warriors who like to scoff at stuff written to evoke emotions of happiness will guzzle down works marked as subversive with pride. That's hardly to say that subversive works are trite by nature. But still, plenty serve the same purpose as stuff like Moe. That is, simple entertainment without being subject to the same degree of ridicule. And what of elitism in general? We've all seen those memes about the 3x3s, perfectly curated for approval within certain circles that pride themselves on being discerning. Outsiders typically criticize these groups for their circle jerk mentality and appearing performative. Oftentimes, you'll hear people talk about forcing themselves through stories they don't personally enjoy, just because it's a classic, or it's required reading, viewing, playing. In these cases, media serves the purpose of fueling the ego, forging one's identity by having seen it, providing clout from having good taste, or avoiding ridicule from others. Furthermore, this approach relies heavily on an outside element, what is considered good, rather than being self-contained to the experience itself. We as humans love to fancy ourselves objective, but in reality, I think for most people, our favorites have a lot to do with where exactly we were in life when we first experienced them. If not, then the concept of nostalgia and reverence of media's childhood would not be nearly as strong. The absence of malice is a key tenet of 2000s Moe, and also the reason why it couldn't last. There are only so many of these shows that even the most militant of Moe otaku can take. Eventually, times change and new trends arise. Nowadays, going back to the sweetness is oh so nostalgic. It truly did mark its place. As the cycle of time rages on and darkness turns to light, the time inevitably comes to awaken from the impossibly pure dream.